It's alive! It's alive!
Hey guys, I'm sure coming at you today with another Raid Shadow Legends Champion Guide. Thank you for joining me today. We have GLISEAH Soul Guide. So, Brayden Miner says, will you be able to do a guide on GLISEAH Soul Guide? I pulled her, but I'm not sure where to use her or build her. Then we have Avrorabug. He says, can you make a GLISEAH guide next, the Sacred Order Legendary? I love her. Ash. I think you meant to say Ash. You meant to say Ash, right? Let's go ahead. Actually, maybe, I don't know, maybe he was telling the truth there. Either aesthetically, guys, I think this champion is one of the coolest looking champions in the game. I really do. I mean, so cool. The blue, the aesthetic of the armor. I just love it. The tiara, what do you call this? Is that a tiara? It's not a tiara. A halo? Just a halo over her head? Either way, she looks really, really cool aesthetically. One of my favorite looking champs out there. What does she do? She's a defense-based, again, Force Affinity Legendary Champion from the Sacred Order. Honor A1 glittering / attacks one enemy. Has a 50% chance of placing a freeze. We also have a debuff spread, taking one random debuff, placing it on all targets under freeze. You'll see that her kit just gets better and better, dependent on freeze. On the AoE, on the A2, Breath of Rhyme, no books needed. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. The weaken is guaranteed, meaning that it's placed, and you don't have to book it up for an extra percentage of landing, okay? So an AoE weaken also steals a random buff from each enemy under freeze. Goes without saying, accuracy is going to be imperative to this kit. We have freeze on the A1, we have a weaken on the A2, and we have stealing buffs on the A2 as well. On the A3, Everwinter plays a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Not the most powerful block debuffs, but it's nice to have nonetheless, right? Also has an 80% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each freeze debuff placed by this skill. So if we land, 4 freeze debuffs in the arena, we get a 60% turn meter fill. Really, really nice there. Not a bad ability, certainly. And then Timeless on the passive. This champion's skills cannot be put on cooldown. So an anti-Basher, anti-Alika, anti-Yumeko, anti-Warlord champion. This whenever an enemy tries to either put this champion's skills or an ally skills on cooldown, places a freeze debuff on that enemy. Also has a 50% chance of denying the cooldown increase effect. So we get a coin flip chance of denying the cooldown on all of our allies as well. The freeze debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Will not deny cooldown increasing effects from bosses. So the bosses thing is a bummer, right? But the freeze cannot be blocked or resisted. What that means is not only will ignore the resistance check, it's not predicated on our accuracy, but also if they have block debuffs on, it will still land the freeze. Still land the freeze with this ability, which is really, really nice. So a lot of people are down on GLISEAH Soul Guide, right? Basically, 2 problems. Number 1, in live arena, if you take her in there against a Yumeko or Warlord or whoever they're using, Basher, right? They can easily just ban her, right? So that mitigates her effectiveness as a hard counter. Number 2 is she's really not a hard counter, right? 50%, there's a lot of RNG there on allies. And it's not like she can come in here and place block debuffs, but she doesn't have like a cleanse. If she had like a cleanse on this ability, I mean, it would be pretty strong with the freeze and the cleanse and the turn meter fill, but I feel like it'd be maybe a little bit more useful. But regardless of all that, her multipliers for a defense-based champion with a lot of base defense is actually even better than Valkyrie's. A 3.3 on the A2 versus A3. Now, Valkyrie has higher defense, almost 1600, so the damage is very comparable to what you can expect from Valkyrie's A2 if you build her to do a little bit of damage too. Now, let's go ahead and try. Let me show you how I have her built here, guys. A very, very, very unique build on this champion, to say the least. So I want to be very clear here as we get into this build that this is arena only, and this is just for an anti-Warlord or Yumeko team. You could easily, if you pulled her in the early game or the mid game, you could easily run this champion, maybe to do a little bit of damage and to crowd control the enemy team with freeze, right? You could also open up with this A3 against Dark Fae, for example, right? Freeze all of your allies. It is an 80% chance, so a little bit of RNG involved there as well, but it's nice to have the block debuffs. You go first, you freeze everybody else, you'll resist the freeze coming back at you. So that's another use case for this champion. In such case, though, you would need to have her a lot faster than what I'm going to show you guys today, obviously, right? So that's why I want to be very clear that you can use this champion really in any dungeon as a pretty dang good support champion. She's super tanky, she's got good control, and she brings some nice debuffs to the table. And stealing random buff from each enemy, keep in mind, this doesn't read as well as it sounds. If I'm using her in like Ice Golem or whatever, any dungeon, right? Not or any faction war or anywhere in the game, any Doom Tower wave against annoying Siffies or whatever, right? Not only am I stealing one buff, but I could potentially be stealing 5 buffs from this ability if they're under freeze. So again, it is predicated on landing the freeze first, which is the big issue here, but it's kind of nice to have, and it actually helps you out maybe a little bit more often than you'd expect inside dungeon waves. So this champion, I would say, is probably like a B-, just solid support champion who's ultra tanky, tough to kill, and she's going to be controlling the match and adding block debuffs just to use, in dungeons and Doom Tower waves. But where she's really known again is the arena, and that's the build I'm going to show you guys today. I think we've covered that. I think we've covered the basics. So we have her in a 6-piece stone skin build, and she is super, super slow, okay? She's basically going to be stuck on stone skin for like half the battle, right? And notice that on this cooldown, on the passive, there is no cooldown, right? So it doesn't matter like where her turn is here. She's going to be resisting those cooldowns, and so are your allies, having a chance at resisting them and placing the unblockable freeze, no matter how slow she is. So I don't want her to be CC'd, hence the 2 turns of Stone Skin. Plus, I like the defense, the resist, the HP that we get from Stone Skin to begin with, right? But I figured I would run her as Polymorph because I have her 4-star blessing, right? So she's going to be resisting, or she's going to be turning everybody into sheep, right? Especially later on in the battle, giving her extra utility. She's going to be blocking the cooldowns, and then she's going to be coming in there and nuking a little bit with the A2 because I built her to do a little bit of damage. I crit capped her at 106, 157 on the crit damage, 404, which is a little low on the accuracy, but it's good enough to get through to, at least the nukers and the debuffers on the enemy team. As I mentioned, we have a lot of defense, and we have her very slow. Now, if you don't want her this slow, totally cool. Just swap out the defensive percentage on the boots for speed on the boots, and then she's a lot more viable for like dungeons and stuff like that, all right? So a nice, easy change there. I'd rather have her ultra tanky and do more damage on that AoE attack because her damage is based on defense, and keep in mind with a 1509 base defense, it scales very, very well. So we have crit rate on the gauntlets. We have crit damage on the gauntlets. We have defense percentage on the chest. We have defense percentage on the boots. And then we're looking for crit rate. We're looking for accuracy as substats here on the rest of the artifacts. We get a trip crit rate there on that weapon. Some pretty good nuking stone skin artifacts here. And honestly, I don't use many nukers. I actually don't use any nukers. Well, I use defense-based. Let me rephrase. I don't use any attack-based nukers in Stone Skin. I don't have like a Cupidus Stone Skin build or anything like that. A Hefrak Stone Skin build, some of the more popular nukers out there that are in vogue to put Stone Skin on. I don't actually utilize any of them on my account, not because they're not good, just because I have other options. So I had a lot of good gear kind of sitting around, right? We went accuracy on the banner. We went with defense on the amulet, and then we went with HP on the ring. I'm wondering if we can sneak in, we can sacrifice a little bit of defense here. 265 isn't that much, and get a little bit of crit damage instead. I just don't want to sacrifice too much accuracy is the problem. So let me see what I have here. I have, you know what? Let's swap it right out. I'll show you. I'll sacrifice a tiny bit of accuracy, but I'll bump that crit damage up even a little bit more. You know what? I can glyph this out right now for you guys. We can chill together a little bit, right? You guys don't mind? All right, so now Now she's really starting to pack a punch here, guys. 106, 191. You might be asking yourself, Ash, why are you even trying to build her for damage, dude? The answer is pure and simple here. Usually, I'm subbing her into an arena team when I see a Warlord or Yumeko, right? Whether it's live arena or whether it's regular classic arena. And usually, I'm subbing her in for a Valkyrie or a Harima or a Staltis Dragonbane, basically a defensive nuker. So to lose that damage on those teams, it really hurts. Oftentimes, I have trouble making up that extra damage. And because her multipliers are all right, pretty good, and nothing crazy, but it's nice to have that extra damage supplemented to some regard on these teams. Okay, so these stats are really good. Still over 6,000 on the defense. Now we're getting up to 200 or close to on the damage. Now, Masteries, I have a big decision to make here, guys, and I'm not sure if I went the right direction or not. I could go offense and end with Helm Smasher, because you could easily make the argument, Ash, if you're going to go Nuker and you're going to go Stone Skin, at least give her Helm Smasher. At least give her some ignore defense. But I really want to land those freezes on that A3 as well, and the A1, and the stealing, and the weaken on the A2. To sacrifice accuracy, or this much accuracy, losing another 70, 80, 90 accuracy off Masteries, to me, you're wasting a big component of what this champion can bring to the table. Granted, the freeze on the passive cannot be resisted, but everything else can in her kit. So I went the support tree, I went with the extra accuracy. Now, I could sacrifice only 50 accuracy and go support tree, come down with Spirit Haste, because obviously Master Hexer is doing nothing, so I just have to get it just to get Eagle Eye. You know what? I'm selling myself on the change, guys. I'm selling myself on the change. Let's do it. Let's sacrifice. I think sacrificing a little bit of accurate. Look at me, man. I started this video. Now we got more crit damage. We got everything going on. We don't need Lure of Steel. I think we will pick a Cycle of Magic. You know what? I'd actually love to have lasting gifts on this champion. Extend that duration of the block debuffs to maybe 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown instead. We don't need the crit rate. We don't need the attack either. So whatever. We'll go with the crit rate, I guess. We will go with Keen Strike. She's bringing Weaken and she's bringing Freeze. So I'm going to go with Arcane Celerity. We're going to go down and pick up... Do we want single out, or do we want... Let's just go with a little bit of a nukage here. Ruthless Ambush. Let's come back in here. Cycle of Violence. I don't know if we'll be able to trigger it much, but let's go Kill Streak and come down to Helm Smasher. Very unorthodox build here, right? The nuker support, but with lasting gifts and coming down the right-hand side. Let's go with Methodical, Blood Shield... Ooh, I think I'd rather just go with some... Nah, Spirit Haste is not going to be that big of a deal. Let's just go Methodical here, and then let's go with Evil Eye. Okay, so those are going to be the Masteries, guys. We switched things up a little bit. Again, hoping to get a little bit of nukage. That crit damage put her over 200, which is really nice. So now 111, 201. Sign me up, guys. So this is GLISEAH Soulguide. Let's go ahead and take her into the arena, guys. What do you say? I actually have a soft spot for this champion. Maybe it's just the aesthetics on her. I have a Warlord team right here. Let's go ahead. So this is the team that I would probably sub her in on, right? And as I mentioned, she'd be replacing, Harima or Valkyrie here. I actually showed this in a video that's going live today, maybe, or yesterday on the main channel. Check it out, dude. Valkyrie is insane. So... I think against this team here, it doesn't really matter who we take out. So I'm going to go ahead and take out... actually, it'd be nice to take... It's going to be nice to add her in not only for Warlord, but also for Nishak because of the block debuff. Same thing with Kymar, even though I'm sure they're going to go first. I'll stop rambling and I'll make my decision here. So let's go ahead and pull this team up. Let's take away Harima. We have enough nukage anyway. And let's put in our GLISEAH Soulguide. So here we go. And you're going to see, I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to take it off auto. I'm going to see exactly how this passive works here. They're obviously going to go... I was going to say they're obviously going to go first, but they don't. So we actually get to come in here and do this. But let's see. Okay. Wait, Warlord, are you ever going to go here, my man? Apparently not. Okay, here he goes. So he's frozen now. And it happened so fast, I should have slowed it down, right? So obviously all of our abilities are still up with GLISEAH. All of our abilities are still up with Siphi because we already opened with the A2. Let's check our other two champions. So again, now we can come in here and we can freeze everybody, right? Boom. And notice all that turn meter filled because we landed 3 freezes, so we're almost back at another turn. We can come back in and nuke, and not only can we nuke, but we can steal buffs even though they don't have any right now. So we're just going to A1 over here. Let's go ahead and poke at their reviver. And then look at the CC though that she's able to add. Here she comes in nuking. Let's see what she can do here. Not bad. I mean, not bad at all. 40k damage with no debuff, no decreased defense, no weaken is actually really, really solid. So there you have it, guys. That's the type of utility she can have on a team. Let's keep looking for more difficult Warlord and Yumeko teams. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Here's one right. Nope, that's a Taurus team. I have like Taurus in my nightmares and on my mind constantly that like now it's everything's draws my attention instantaneously. All right, where are all the Warlord and Yumeko teams, right? When you don't want to face them, they're everywhere. When you do want to face them, they're nowhere to be found. It is reset arena day right now, so we're getting a mixed bag of endgame and okay, here's one right here. So block active skills, they have the double control with Hegemon and Warlord, but obviously block active skills isn't going to be a pain because it's just our passive. And again, he's frozen, and it looks like we got a... Again, it happened so fast that I lost track of who blocked it and who didn't. But again, you can see how effective this is. It really just does a pretty good job of neutralizing their team. Now, I had a collab with Scratch talking about champion on his channel, talking about champions that we were super underwhelmed with, and he listed GLISEAH as one of his like most disappointing legendary champions. I can understand where Scratch is coming from on that decision. I get it, man. I'm not sitting here telling you she's the best champion in the world or anything like that. However, I kind of like her. I wish, talking about a buff on this champion, right? You could either add more PvE utility or basically more utility outside of just that cooldown in terms of PvP, or you could add more PvE utility to her, like we mentioned, adding maybe a little bit of a cleanse, maybe even a little bit of a heal on that A3. Just something like maybe something crazy like you every time a freeze debuff is landed on an enemy heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP, like something like that, right? Give her one more use and then I think she'd be a tremendous champion. And she looks so cool that it's a waste not to have this champion be meta, in my opinion, you know? But you can see this team's doing a really good job of just kind of controlling this match. We're going against a super tanky team, and our only damage dealers are Valkyrie and GLISEAH, both dealing very similar damage, right? And I have to say, I'm, mildly impressed right now with the damage that she's putting out. Of course, she gets a weak hit against Demon Spawn. She's no replacement for Harima in terms of a sheer raw damage, but in terms of utility, she certainly gets the job done, and it's like she can at least pack a little bit of a punch too. Let's try to find another like a little bit more formidable Yumeko or Warlord team here. Nothing. Let's keep searching here. Nope. It's going to come down to the bottom. Okay, here's one. Okay, we're going to do this one, and then we'll end it here. So they have a bomber in Gaius the Gleeful. They come in here. They put 2 of our skills on cooldown, but we do land quite a few stuns with Mighty Uko. Kind of saves us there. Gaius not able to get his turn in. Let's see if we can come in, and you can see this slow build. Sometimes we want her to go a little faster. We'd love to CC the entire team, which we're going to do anyway. But it allows her to have that stone skin on and just be an absolute tank, right? So now we're able to freeze a few of their champions, at least. They resisted quite a few of those. But nonetheless, so we get locked out over here. Let's just go after go after Arbiter, come in A2, and this is pretty much going to be it. But again, guys, hopefully I've given you something to think about with this champion. I have a soft spot for her. I like her. Let's see that nuke. Again, that's like solid damage. She's not Canderfon, you know, she's not an attack-based nuker, but it's solid enough damage to where you can slot her into your team when you need her if you build her in this way, in the arena at least, and get some nice utility, guys. I hope you enjoyed this guide, a little bit of an unorthodox build on an off-meta champion. I really did. Go ahead and subscribe and leave some recommendations if you have any for champions that you'd like to see guides on in the future, guys. Send some positive vibes your way, some love, especially if you need it out there. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.